Hey friends, it's Julie from Plan to Create, and I am going to share a February setup in this creative journal. But as I'm doing that, I decided to flip you through kind of what the pages are that I've created so far, which includes that kind of swatch of all my colors, the book tracker, my January setup, kind of how you can see a glimpse of how the month turned out, and kind of the goal for this. You can see I'm using some stamps, I'm jotting some stories throughout our day. It's just a really fun place for me to experiment with some of the stamp sets that I order and that otherwise I just don't end up using. So this is becoming a perfect house for that, and I've really, really been enjoying it. So this is an example of a set I ordered from Close to My Heart. It's this really cool, like brushed looking alphabet stamp. So you can kind of, hope you can see that, some of those pieces of this, some of the sections of the stamps look like they're not showing up, but it's on purpose. So it kind of gives this look like it was actually stroked on there. So I do that for my title page for February. And then I just love finding stamps that nest. I guess that's the best way to say it. So that little one doesn't have a real purpose, but it nests. I'm going to jump over to my monthly view. So first things first, I white out the Sunday column because I'm going to turn this into a Monday start. It's not a big deal, but the issue is that I get confused. If I'm going back and forth between a Sunday start and a Monday start calendar, I will add things on the wrong dates just because I'm so used to that far left column being Monday. So that's why I do this. It's not that I'm vehemently opposed to Sunday start. Quick shout out to Karen. Thank you for reminding me to get this cute little ruler. It's from the Coffee Monster Co. and I love it. I've been using it a ton. So thank you for reminding me that. I oftentimes miss her releases because I just can't track all of them. So Karen reminded me. Appreciate it. I'm taking a second here just to show my stamp blocks. I love these Lawn Fawn brands. They're scalloped edges and they're not super thick. I'm going to show you. This one is Close to My Heart, I think, and it's a little bit thicker. But a good stamp block is important. You need different sizes because the smaller your stamp, the smaller the block you want to use. It just gives you a little bit more control. I'm realizing that for February, I only need 28 days to show up on this little mini calendar, not the 30 and 31. So I stick some washi down there to help block the 30, 31, and that works perfectly. And then I come back and add the Monday through Sunday in a darker ink. It's kind of a game, experimenting with lighter and darker inks, and I'm just willing to test it out and see what I like. It's kind of part of this project, is just that willingness to just test something that I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but we're going to go with it. In previous years, I used to pre-stamp a lot of my projects before I would film, and I'm trying to let that perfectionism go and just learn through this process. This journal is not life or death. This is not being published in any way. It's just, aside from on YouTube, but it's just a place for me to experiment and play. So you can see I grabbed these date dots from the planner spot. I'm going to stick with this throughout the year. I feel like they look nice. I have a lot of handwriting and other stuff going on inside this journal. So the times and places that I can add a stricter font like this that's crisp and clean, I think that helps balance it out. So that's part of why I wanted to use those. And then I'm jumping over to my little corner. I did this in January. I'll repeat it in February, but those large numbers are fun to use for a bold statement. You're going to see a lot of this stamp set. I'll just give you a warning. It's part of the Studio Calico stamp kit that I recently joined, and I'm determined to fit it in. I don't right there. I instead opt for these little hearts, but you're going to see me reach for it over and over, and I will eventually work it into this journal. I have so many sets that have the months of the year, so you're going to see it pop up throughout my pages over and over. Here we go again. I want to use this. So what I do is I grab that frame and I use it in this linen color. So yes, you can't see it, but yay, you can't see it. When I am a little bit nervous about trying something, that linen color is super safe. I could always even stamp over it in another color. It's so light, but it just gives me a feel for how it might look, and I can decide, do I want to do it in a darker one or not? I'm going to fuss with these little washi strips, but just adding that pattern and that color. And then I'm digging through because I want to just add some confetti dots here. I have this tiny little circle that I just like to sprinkle around. It's kind of fun. And I think I even come back later and do some more sprinkling. It's kind of my new favorite thing. I tucked these monthly tabs into the back of my book. It has a nice little pocket to hold them. And so I'm just going to come through and add my February. Super simple. I'm adding the washi primarily just to add a little bit of color and pattern. Not really because they have to be tied down. I have come through and carved out a lot of footage so that you guys don't see every decision I make and then redecision. But I leave stuff like this in here just to show you, I laid that down, I looked at it, and then I realized, nope, I didn't like how the rip was leaving an odd space over on the left. So I switch it so that the rip is starting up on the left and then working its way into my page on the right. I don't know, that's kind of a lot of information. But you can see that like that open space that is going to be created from the ripped edge on the top then allows it to like work into my page instead of like into the edge, which didn't make as much sense. I don't know. That's all I can say about that. But I have this little heart that I'm going to add into it, I believe, and it's very light again, that linen, so it's not a bold mark, but it's there. Sorry, this next part is a little off screen. I'm coming down to balance. That one big bold strip of washi needs some balance. So I add another little bit there in the bottom corner. And then I like to do a third triangle. So I randomly stick some up there, just some leftover little scraps. I am going to later change that, but for now, I think it's fine. I love my document winter set, that one with all the hexagons, and it has this tiny little February. And so look at that though too, guys. I do have a little pad of paper that I'm coming through and testing out, making sure things are stamping the way that I think they're going to look in that color of ink. That's something I highly recommend, a little test stamp situation. This little stamp is a tiny element, but it's kind of fun to repeat it in both corners. Instead of that little piece of washi up in the corner, I want something dark there and black, but I opt to stamp this cute little key locket, and it has nothing to do with the day, just simply a design choice to balance out the other black elements. With the foundation of my month done, I'm ready to move on and build the foundation for my weeks. And so I'm flipping through my previous pages and kind of taking note, like what did I like? What colors worked? I loved this stamp set, but obviously I wasn't super fond of that light color for the numbers. So I go ahead and decide that I'm going to use this cotton candy color from the stamp market, and I'm going to repeat it for each week. There are so many other ways that I can get creative on my pages that honestly, these are like the fundamental. I'm going to work around those numbers, but like the dating of the days and the week numbers, those are just like fundamental. Get them done. These are like for information purposes, and then the fun stuff is what I will build around them. I skip you around a little bit. Sorry, I don't show every number, but that's not the fun part. Now we can start decorating. I know I've said it before, but finding little stamps to house other stamps is probably one of my favorites. So you can see here, I'm holding them up, testing them out. Some of these I win, some of them I lose. This one, not so much. I don't love the 0 sticking out and the 8 past the flag. But again, this is just a perfect spot for me to test things out and see. I'm just being upfront. I cut out a lot of footage for you guys so that you're not just sitting here bored to death as I'm making my decisions. But I wade through my stamps. I look for little holes that might need to get filled, and I just twist things around until I can fit the right thing in there. You can see I'm doing that here with my block. So this is, again, the fun part for me, but I do wade through a little bit so that you guys are not walking through every step. I recently purchased a stamp set from Close to My Heart. You're going to see a glimpse of it here. It's called Perfectly Imperfect Patterns, which is like exactly what I need in my life. Like, I don't have to make them perfect. So you can see I do those like brush swipes there. Love those. Then I go ahead and white that out, add a little bit of washi, get a little distracted with washi, but I'm going to come back to that stamp in a second, and I just want to shout its praise. I started off with this large splotch. I don't know what else to call it, but I loved it. I was immediately giddy, and it's funny because in the middle I was like, wait, did I not get it inked up well? Or, is it me? Is it you? Like, I don't know. But I loved it because it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, it's just imperfect. It just doesn't have to be like perfectly solidly stamped. And then you guys, these little splatters, I kind of go bananas. I love them here. I'm like, where else can I add them? I go back to my month and just start to sprinkle them everywhere. I'll probably add a lot of these before the month is over, and I literally am so pleased with them. I decide that huge leopard washi is way too bold. I want my splotches to show, thank you very much, so I remove it. Oops, I accidentally got busy off camera, so let me catch you up. You see where I was there, but then I also added this grid here from that same stamp set. It has something that I can just come through and create an entire grid, so if I wanted more structure, it'd be great. I also am showing you, I had those little lines right there are from this stamp set. They're like the perfect width for each column. So when I'm kind of done with one section of journaling, I could use that to divide. So for example, I have this like kind of in-depth journaling about probably how I'm hitting this wall creatively. And then the next section is Taco Tuesday, naturally. So you can see that the stamp actually just had the T-U-E, and I really wanted it to have an S. So I was like, okay, I can carefully ink up the S of Sunday. Then I'm like, never mind, I'll just ink up the entire Sunday, and I will put paper underneath the U and the N when I go to stamp so that only the S shows up. It's like a masking technique. Another one, before I used washi, here I used paper. And then you'll notice too, I did come back with my pen and just fill in a little mark that didn't come all the way through. So I wanted to show that to you guys too. The primary focus of this video is to show you guys more of the overall setup, but here you're kind of getting a glimpse of how I use the pages on a day-to-day basis. I just have a little story I want to tell, I write it down, I mix in some stamps to kind of make it look cute, and I hope that this gives you a feel for how I use this journal. Week 9 is definitely going to get covered more in my March setup. So I actually come through, I white out these extra days, and I want to use this page in a totally different way. So I have the 28th there. I will have that space available for journaling. But this page is a perfect example of like, hey, I have this stamp and I'm letting my stamps kind of dictate what I'm going to create on my page. So you'll see that I have the loving this up at the top. That was from like a February set. And I come through and I try it with this little bracket, and then I add those brackets on the bottom. You're going to see it later. But then I decide, nope, don't like it. So I come through with the other little underline underneath the other columns. I get distracted and I see this cute little filming, and I know that I'm filming on this day, so I take a second to take care of that. But this little set basically covers like all your favorites or your currently. A lot of people do currently pages for their memory keeping. And so this is like, what are the things that I'm into? What am I loving? What am I reading? What am I eating? And it's just a fun recap page for the month. And I think it's a perfect spot for it. And I like how those columns are already built in, ready for me. I'm using that grid again, and it's in this light linen color, so it's really faint, going to be hard for you guys to see. Then at the bottom, I show you really quickly there how I use this tiny little dot to create this list. How to Buy My Love is what I titled it, which is a joke, but it's basically a wish list, things that I'm kind of eyeing right now. It'll be fun to look back on later and see what I purchased, what I didn't. But there's a planner edition, and then I think a wardrobe edition. Here I'm just using my Tombow N89 to add this faint color in my blah 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 section, so that's totally open to being whatever I want it to be. Okay friends, I think I've managed to take an hour and a half of footage and bring it down to around 12 minutes, so you're welcome. I hope it wasn't too fast and furious. I'm flipping through these pages. You can see kind of how I'm using this planner, and then all the room that I have on weeks 6, 7, and 8 just to play. When a new stamp set arrives that week, I have a spot to test it out, and I'm super excited to keep using some of these favorites that I've recently discovered. So this is just it's a fun project for me, and I appreciate you guys joining me along for this. I have decided I'll add a little bit of yellow into the month of February to balance out some of this pink. So I will try to flip you guys through those pages when I set up March. So let me know if you have any questions below. Otherwise, thanks so much, guys.